Welcome to this radio channel, and this is a little quick update on solar activity, a little bit of update on WRMI also. One of the things I want to first of all talk about is, sorry yesterday for the live show, I was unable, power came back, was about 23:15 UTC, so I deemed that it was a little too late to do that type of show. I didn't want to, have a show that most Europeans would not be watching probably. So sorry about that. Today's Saturday, no live show, as we are in the Saturday that I am off. So we will be back with that show for satellite listening next week, guys. So sorry once again. Okay, and Saturday also next week we'll have a live show. WRMI update first. A few new frequencies that are using now. I've heard WRMI yesterday all evening on 11580. So nice to see they're back on that main frequency, which is one of the best for me. And slowly they're putting all the transmitters back on the air. It's nice to see that they are working hard to make sure everything's all right. So they have several frequencies now that are working, and those that are still missing will probably be there in the next few days also. So really nice to see that they are back. And why not drop them a line and say, hey, we're so happy that you're back. It's kind of cool. Now, for solar activity, what's happening is that, first of all, the sun is, of course, has this big sunspot right smack in the middle right now facing Earth, 2680. If that would erupt in a solar flare, we'd be pretty much in the direct line to receive the cloud of particles. For now, it's pretty quiet. It doesn't, it crackles with small flares, but it's not really creating any big stir. One of the things that's happening with the sun right now is that it's, the solar activity has been going a little lower. There's been, the solar flux is down. One of the things that's happening right now is that there's kind of gusts of solar wind crossing. And one of the things that's happening with the sun and the earth at this time of year, it happens 2 times every year, which is September and October and March and April. These 2 months are the months where the earth is very vulnerable to increased solar wind. So if there's coronal holes, these are kind of holes in the sun's atmosphere where the solar wind can escape faster, basically, or there's wind gusts of solar wind depending on activity. For example, even small flares on that sunspot can actually create that. What it does, it actually pushes our makes our geomagnetic field respond more. So September and October, this time of year, and again, in March and April, which are the equinox, we often have these moments of high geomagnetic activity where there's, auroras and geomagnetic storming, simply because the solar wind is pushing a little more. And the science between all of this is not fully understood, but they do think it's because how the Earth is positioned, it kind of makes the geomagnetic field around Earth a little more vulnerable in ways to these solar wind gusts. And you see here, solar winds at 661.2, which I believe is in kilometers per second. So this shows you that it basically means that it's, a little gusty, and that's why the number you see here is yellow. So we've been having some geomagnetic storming in the past day or 2. Because of that, we've had, of course, we're probably going to head through a lowering of geomagnetic activity, but we're still probably going to be a little on the edge of getting all of this activity. And of course, there were some auroras last night. Once again, because of coronal holes around the sun and all of that, which makes things a little more stormy. So solar flux, lower solar flux, as you see here, 74. Solar flux is, of course, something that is not great for this time of year. You know, a solar flux of 74 means that higher frequencies will not propagate much. Unfortunately, that is, you know, we're going to the downward spiral of solar activity, so expect to have solar flux of around 70 be pretty much the norm in the next months, except for, you know, little moments like we just had and just went through of high solar activity because of sunspots, and then everything comes back to normal. So I hope you enjoy these little updates from time to time. We'll be not doing them every day probably, but doing them every like 2 or 3 days, staying in touch with also what's happening in the solar activity. So enjoy your radio listening. Remember that the K index right now, if we look at the x.qsl.net, which I like because it's a little clearer and a more direct view of the indices. So we have solar flux of 73 and K index of 4 this morning at 1520 UT. This is a little, you know, not the best conditions, but, you know, tune in. You never know what you can hear, and sometimes a little like geomagnetic activity can actually do some amazing openings for some unusual parts of the world on propagation. So let's hope that this K index can actually go a little lower, more like, you know, 2 or 1 if possible. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, give us thumbs up, and hope you enjoy these little updates to solar activity. And of course, we'll add some little bits of news from here and there from the shortwave world.